Welcome back to my animation channel. Thanks very much for joining me again. In this video we're going to look at how I'm using Blender in the movie The Painter on Safari. I'm using it to create this asset here, the Land Cruiser that all the tourists are going to be traveling around the savannah in. Up till now in the movie I've used a 2D asset and that's worked okay up to now, but going forward from scene 4, 5, 6, 7 and into 8 there'll be a lot more animated footage of the vehicle coming from various angles, etc. So I really needed to create a 3D asset, something that can be rendered from various angles. I want it to be coming into scene at various angles, and also there will be some close-ups of some of the vehicle, especially the tires, etc. And to do this efficiently would be very difficult in 2D, so I'm creating an asset here in Blender so that I can do this in 3D. Then the plan is to render it out using an outline render, very basic, and maybe some muted colors. I might even do the coloring in OpenToonz, but I don't need all the fancy highlights, etc. that you usually use in a 3D render. I'll just be using the render to place into OpenToonz and then work from there. So I'll see how it goes as we work through the movie, what I can do with it. But at this stage it's quite essential just to actually build this vehicle and get it to a stage that I can start shooting some renders in 3D and then port them across to my OpenToonz 2D and actually use them in scenes. So that's what I'm doing now, is just building this vehicle. And I've got the vehicle itself in the 3D setup. I imported it into Blender and I've got it on the Y and the X axis here as a front view and a side view. The front view isn't that true, to be honest, because it's looking down at it slightly, but it's good enough to work with. I might bring in a rear view at the end when I'm doing the back of the vehicle, because that obviously will be a different view of the vehicle, which I don't have here right now. But I'm just using some basic shapes here to create the wheels, etc. My modeling skills in Blender at the moment is not great, so I'm keeping it as basic as possible. This isn't about teaching you Blender. There's a lot of content on YouTube and there's a lot of courses on Udemy, etc. that you can pick up and learn it yourself. So this won't be about learning Blender, but I'm just showing you my process here and how I'm actually bringing it into my film. So here I'm just trying to trace the side view of this vehicle that I've been using as closely as possible. It's not needed that it's exactly like the vehicle I've been using so far in the film. I'd like it to be, but it's not totally necessary, because so far the vehicle hasn't had much exposure in the movie. It was just in the first scene or the first part, the opening part, and also a little bit at the end in the closing of the second part. So there isn't really anything that I need to adhere to. Visually, its exposure in the movie so far has been very limited, so I've got a bit of a carte blanche or free hand at creating the model that we'll be using going forward. But still I want it to be based on the existing model that I've been using, or the existing 2D that I've been using. So you can see I'm trying to set it up as closely to the existing model as I can, but it's not that important that it looks at the end exactly like it. These wheels I've spent a bit of time on, putting in some various levels of detail, including some nuts and bolts and stuff on the wheels, and that's because there's a few scenes in the movie where we have a very low shot of the vehicle coming by and we basically just see the wheels going past, so I want a lot of detail on that. I've gone into the tires and actually put some treads on the tires as well. You can see some of the shapes I've actually constrained or made smaller in the tires. That's a ribbing effect in the tires in the wheels there. And as I go, I'll add more detail to this. I'm just working on the one side, and then I'll obviously copy it and mirror it over to the other and join it all up. Where I am now is, at this stage, is I've done the wheels, the tires and wheels, and also the main part of the body. But I've got a lot still to do. The seating, the roll bars, the bull bars at the front, and all the details like lights, etc. So there's and the rear mirrors. There's the windscreen that's been folded down. So there's still a lot more detail to go into this, but it's coming along well. I'm pretty chuffed with it. Blender I found is a lot easier than I've used it once or twice over the years, but I haven't really done a lot of modeling, nothing serious. And so this is really my first time in a long time to come back and do some modeling. And I'm sure I'm missing a lot of the tricks, the shortcuts or whatever. I'm sure I'll learn more as I go along. But I'm finding it very intuitive, and it's surprisingly easy to model with. So when I get to the animation part, we'll see how that goes. And as I say, the rendering part itself, I'll just be aiming at getting a very basic outline rendered, possibly some colors. But even if I just render out outlines and bring it in as PNGs or whatever to OpenToonz to use, that'll be enough. I can see how this 3D model is really going to speed up production on this part of the movie. And as I say, this is part 4, and there's another 4 parts after this that has a lot of footage of the vehicle. So just having it as a 3D model is really going to speed up production. To do this in 2D would be not impossible, but it would just take, I would expect, 5-10 times longer. So just setting the model up once, having it good to go. I'm going to drop the characters in as well as load poly objects and paint them as well. Well, we'll see about that, but I'll probably end up painting them as well. And having this set up once and being able to render this out every time I need a shot of the vehicle, I'm absolutely sure is really going to speed up the production of this part of the movie. As I say, because I'm using it, it's in the movie a lot going forward here. I really needed to do this. So that's it. There'll be more videos on how this goes as I go through and complete this vehicle. So please check those out. And otherwise, that's it for this video. Thanks very much for joining my channel once again. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my emailing list, which is growing. And once again, thanks a lot for dropping in, and happy animating out there, and I hope I'll see you here again soon. All the best. Bye.